Welcome home to St. Anne's. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you. The true test of Christian faith is, what do you do the Sunday after Easter? So, congratulations, you're here. And we'll see everyone else next year. Okay, so I have to make the joke because we always joke. So every clergy person takes off the Sunday after Easter, like literally every single one of them, except for us, because we're here, because we don't have anything better to do. But it's known as like low attendance Sunday. Like the clergy aren't there, the parishioners aren't there. God is there. So we're going to show up anyway. So God bless all of you. You win. I don't know what we win, but hey, we win. Cadbury eggs? No, because I have enough Cadbury eggs for like literally eternity. Over 100. I counted them. There were many of them. Many of them. Close. There are not 100 anymore. They're definitely not 100 anymore. Okay, so Thomas, because I think this is an incredibly important story, but it's kind of funny because it always comes after Easter, so I'm not sure how often we actually talk about it, right? But I call Thomas the patron saint of Missouri. All Missourians get it, right? You're like, show me, right? So Thomas is actually one of my favorites. I think it's because of that. And so we get really used to, if you hear this sermon, because if you are in church on the Sunday after Easter, and if there's a clergy person who chooses to preach, you usually get the sermon of, have faith. Don't be like Thomas. Blind faith. Blind faith is the good faith, right? Have we heard kind of that sometimes? You're all going to be like, no, and that's going to like kill my sermon, so don't say no. Because I'm banking on you haven't heard that sermon. And so I want us to talk a little bit more about this story, because I think it's a really, really important story for those, especially those of us who are Episcopalians, because generally speaking, and this is a very, very broad brush, so it may or may not apply to you, but generally for us as Episcopalians, we tend to really like to know things. So we don't tend to be the blind faith church. We tend to be the church of science and philosophy and lots of learning and education. We like to know things. You know, usually our heads are so big that we sometimes can't get through the door, which is why I think we have such low attendance. That's my theory. I'll let you know if that pans out. Aren't you all glad you're here today? Yes. Okay, so Thomas, remember, they're all huddled together because remember what just happened? I know it's like been a while because a lot happens in the church in the last couple of weeks. But Jesus has been crucified. Now, I know as of last, we were all excited about it because it was Easter for us. But at this time, for a lot of these dudes, it was a really nerve-wracking time because Jesus just got murdered in a brutal way. And they're like, oh, they're going to be looking for us next. So guess where they all are? I mean, the women went to the tomb. They're not there. The women were doing their thing because they, do their thing, right? But the dudes are all scared. So they're all hanging out in a little room together. Huddle up because they think that they're coming for them next. Thomas, we don't know where Thomas is, but high five, because hopefully he's doing something really good. Or it could be that he was just late and they'd already locked the door. We don't know. But he wasn't there. So when Jesus appears, he's not there. But they see him later, and they're like, hey, Thomas, you're not going to believe this, but. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't. And I have a feeling because I went to college and I married a frat boy, and I know what dudes at this age are like. They love to be mean to each other. like every dude here is like, yeah, we kind of do that, right? So women hang out, and we chit-chat, and we support each other, right? Dudes hang out, and they play tricks on each other. Yeah, like a sign of friendship for dudes is like being mean. And so I'm just guessing here that Thomas is probably pretty used to this. So when they're like, Jesus showed up, he's like, yeah, no, he didn't. It's like, and not only did that not happen, but I will not believe that until Jesus shows up to see me, right? And he gets extreme. He's like, I'm going to like touch holes in his flesh. Nobody wants to touch holes in no flesh. Do not take this literally, because like literally no one ever is like, love to stick my hand in some wounds. Right? Gross. That's gross. And Thomas did, this is an extreme thing, just like we all say extreme things, right? We don't mean them literally. Okay. But other funny thing about dudes, because Jesus is a dude, remember? And he has like a hardcore sense of humor. We don't always catch it because we've cleaned Jesus up a lot in the last, few years. Like, I don't know, 2000. And so we've made him really serious. And let's be honest, we don't know the language that well. So we miss a lot of Jesus' humor and sarcasm. But he's very sarcastic. So it does not surprise me at all that Jesus would do this, that he, like, shows up. And he's like, well, you said it. Here you go. And I don't mean high five. Here you go. And Tom's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Good. I see you. I believe. We're good. And so then Jesus has this statement with him about, do you only believe because you literally, physically saw me and put your hands on me? Well, blessed are those who don't have to go through all that. And that's where we all get this hook about like, oh, you must have blind faith, right? That's where this comes from. But I want us to think a little bit more deeply about that. Anyone here ever been an atheist? You don't have to raise your hand. Some of you might be right now. I don't know. That's cool, actually. Because I'm a firm believer that faith has to be wrestled with. And some of the most faithful people are people who have said, no, this doesn't make sense, and I'm not getting on board with it until I see it, touch it, experience it myself. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that God created many, 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 many kinds of people. And God finds a way to reach every single one of us. So the way that God connects with me is going to be very different than the way that God connects with you. And if you spend enough time with Episcopalians, you realize that our faith journeys are all incredibly different. And there are so many ordained former atheists. Like, lots of them. Like, lots and lots and lots of them. Because we are a church of Thomas. We are, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. But I think we get too hung up on the literal part of this. The idea that I've got to touch it and feel it and see it. Because the ways in which we have that kind of contact with God are many and varied, and they're unique to every single one of us. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing because we are all unique and different, and the way that God communicates with us is unique and different. So, enough of getting hung up on the must-touch thing, because here's the thing. Helen Keller had this amazing, beautiful quote, and I'm probably going to slaughter it because, let's be honest, I don't remember anything ever. But it goes something like this. The most wonderful and beautiful things in this world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. And what if we weren't so hung up on the literal of this story? What if we realized that what actually happens here is not that Thomas touches Jesus, but that Jesus touches him? What if? What if we realize that that's what this is all really about? It's not about the tactical. It's about seeing God in a new way and realizing, oh my gosh, It's true. It's all true. Even though we've all had those points in our lives, and if you haven't had this point in your life yet, you really probably should. We all have to have that dark night of faith, that dark path in which this doesn't make sense. This is crazy and insane. And the fact that we're ringing bells and singing hallelujah and being all crazy and nuts. Wait, why? Why? Because God has to touch us. It's not so much us having to touch God or see God, but us recognizing it, feeling it in our hearts, looking at God in his face and saying, oh my gosh, this is real. This is all real. And what does that do to us when we really, truly realize that? What happens when we are okay with being Thomas? Because here's what I believe. That faith only comes through wrestling. Faith only comes when you've wrestled so hard and you're so exhausted and you don't even know anymore that when you look up, you realize it's God. It's not blind. That's just stupidity. Okay, don't go on telling anyone that. But it is. It's only when we've wrestled with this so much and struggled with it and we feel like we don't get it that we recognize it and we see it for what it is. And so give yourself some space. Because here's what I guarantee you. Here's what I can promise you 100%. Is that when you stop demanding proof, you'll experience God.
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.